Now, KOAT, Action 7 News live at 10. Coverage you can count on.
Terror in Brussels after bombings at an airport and a busy subway, and the suspects who did it are still missing.
Late tonight, ISIS saying more attacks could be coming to more countries. So we asked Homeland Security what this means for America.
Our vigilance needs to be up at all levels.
And we look at the clues investigators have as they try to make sense of a senseless killing spree.
The biggest development tonight, ISIS making more threats. The terror group says it's behind today's attack and is promising dark days for countries allied against them, like the U.S.
The death toll has also risen to 34 people. 100 others are recovering in hospitals, including some Americans. Here's what else we know right now. Despite the threats from ISIS, Homeland Security says there is no credible intelligence on any plots against the United States. And in the last couple of hours, the State Department issued a travel warning for American citizens, saying it could be risky to travel to Europe right now. And new tonight, ABC News is reporting authorities have just identified the suspects and shared their names with U.S. officials.
While police keep looking for at least one of them, we are getting a much clearer picture of exactly what happened in Brussels. Ray Mundy has the update.
Tonight, while Brussels is under darkness, ongoing raids continue across the European country. An international manhunt for this man, who authorities have now identified as a suspect in the Brussels airport attack. Investigators say it all started around 8. Two bombs exploding in the departure hall outside the security checkpoint. The terminal filled with smoke. People frantically running for safety.
Big bang. Everybody cried. And came along here, we saw kind of smoke, you know.
The force so great, ceilings collapsed, people lying on top of one another, and the horror continued. 9:11 a.m., just an hour after the airport explosion, 7 miles away, another suicide bomb goes off near the offices of the European Union. The target, a packed metro car, children screaming in fear.
It's the first time I saw such a thing in my life.
The aftermath leading to hundreds of injuries, among those 9 Americans, including Mormon missionaries Richard Norby, Joseph MP, and Mason Wells, all seriously hurt. As Brussels is under siege, here in the States, law enforcement officials whipping out the armor. Security beefed up at major transportation hubs across America, including New York, a top target.
There remains no credible and specific threat against New York City.
And as Brussels mourns, an international sign of solidarity, messages of prayers and condolences. Ray Mundy, ABC News, New York.
The attacks are personal to a lot of New Mexicans. One UNM soccer player says it was his hometown that was hit, and it's hard seeing Brussels like this on television. Simon Spangenberg says his family and friends still live there. He tells us his mom works near the metro station where one of the attacks happened. The first thing he did this morning was call to make sure everyone was okay.
It's kind of hard because I wish I was close to the people I love right now, but internet helps.
Fortunately, all of Spangenberg's family and friends are okay.
The head of Homeland Security for New Mexico says he is not surprised by today's terrorist attacks. Before coming here, he spent the last decade in Europe working military intelligence. Target 7's Nancy Laughlin asked him what the bombings mean for Americans.
It's an airport, a city, an area New Mexico's Homeland Security Secretary knows very well.
Knowing how many times I transited that airport and used the metro, it was very disheartening.
Jay Mitchell was raised here in New Mexico, but spent much of his life in Europe, in the Netherlands, and in Brussels. He worked as a U.S. intelligence officer assigned to NATO military command.
As soon as I heard it this morning, loomed large.
Mitchell says he is saddened by the terrorist attack, but not surprised. He said Belgium is extremely segregated, especially along religious lines.
It's tough to see failures like this in local security and to see the advances that have been made by our enemies.
Mitchell tells us when failures like that happen in Europe, authorities here take extra caution. At places like sporting events and airports, they're keeping extra watch, and authorities are asking for your help, too. Homeland Security has a program called See Something, Say Something, and Mitchell says on days like today, even the smallest piece of information can be crucial.
Nobody knows better what normal is in your own neighborhood, in your own transit areas, in your work, and in your schools than the people that live there and work there daily.
Mitchell was in the Pentagon on September 11, 2001. He survived the attack that changed America forever. And now Mitchell says he wants to make sure nothing like that ever happens here again.
10. Nancy Laughlin, KOAT Action 7 News.
But an international terrorism expert says increasing security isn't the only thing the United States should do.
We also need to learn more about what's happening over there. And what is this threat? What drives this threat?
Emil Knockley used to work for the CIA and now teaches at the University of New Mexico. He says ISIS attacks in Europe pose a very real threat to the U.S. and believes fighting ISIS in Syria is the only way to stop this from happening again.
A lot of Americans are in Brussels. Some are vacationing, others studying abroad or ministering. 3 American Mormon missionaries were hurt during the explosions at the airport. They are from Utah, and tonight they're in the hospital along with nearly 100 other people. And a group of students from the University of Oregon are also there studying abroad. They were at the town hall at the time of the attacks. They say until now, they did not feel unsafe.
If you have a loved one there, cell phone providers are trying to make it easier to get in touch. AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, Virgin Mobile, and Boost Mobile are all offering free calls and texts to Belgium.
We told you earlier airports in the U.S. are tightening security after the attacks. In Denver, police evacuated a section of the main terminal at their international airport for a possible security threat. They say a bomb squad checked out some suspicious packages, but they turned out not to pose a threat. So after 2 hours, the evacuation was lifted. Download the KOAT app to receive the latest updates on the attacks in Brussels. And starting at midnight, we'll have even more coverage on Nightline and then on Good Morning America. That starts at 7 right after More in the Morning.
After a 6-hour battle, tonight the grass fire in Pewaukee is mostly contained. And we've learned classes at local schools will go on as planned tomorrow. But that doesn't mean the work is over. Action 7 News reporter Kristen Swanson is in Santa Fe County to explain why firefighters will still be out all night.
Forest Service crews are gearing up to stay overnight in this area of the Pewaukee Bosque. They're watching small mop-up spots and also chopping down any trees to keep this fire from spreading. Eric Gonzalez looked outside today and saw smoke and flames heading straight for his brother's home.
The winds kicked up real fast. It got out of control.
He called 911, then watched as fire crept into the treetops.
I was just really hoping that we could get our little garden hose all the way to my brother's house to make sure that that doesn't burn down.
More than 80 firefighters battled the blaze, which eventually grew to 20 acres. At one point, it jumped the fire lines, putting close to 10 homes in danger. The main enemy here were howling, shifting winds that sent the flames in different directions. After battling for hours, crews had the fire mostly contained by 6. Just in case, again, these Forest Service crews are staying overnight, especially if these winds keep changing and that fire manages to spark again. In Pewaukee, Kirsten Swanson, KOAT, Action 7 News.
A fire could also break out in Albuquerque, especially near the Bosque, where the high wind and dry brush make for a dangerous combination. Action 7 News reporter Matt Howerton went out with firefighters on patrol. He is live near the Bosque. Matt?
Doug, I want you to take a walk with me. Fire officials across the state have all told us the same thing. They're mostly concerned with high weeds and grass just like this. And they're so high because of our record rains from last year. And now that it's so dry, they pose a huge fire danger.
You know, we just want to be on the ready.
If you're in Albuquerque Fire's Wildland Division, your day can turn on a dime. Especially a warm, windy day like this one. Fire season is here in a big way, and already officials say conditions this year are worse than they were last year. So they're ramping up patrols.
When these fires are reported, the response is quicker because they're already down in here.
Statewide, fire officials say they're not especially worried about New Mexico's forests right now. Their focus is on areas that have a lot of high grass and weeds, the product of last year's very wet monsoon season. Now that all that growth is dried out, these areas, especially Albuquerque's Bosque, are a virtual tinderbox.
If there's a fire in conditions like today, the high temperatures and the high winds will spread very quickly.
AFD is patrolling the Bosque for that reason.
Our goal is to catch the fire in the incipient phase before it runs into being something large in nature.
And these guys plan to be out every day for quite a while, hoping they don't have to roll out the hoses.
AFD tells us the best way to fight these wildfires is to report them. They're asking folks to say something when they see something so that they can get out here and put out fires faster. In Albuquerque, Matt Howardson, KOAT, Action 7 News.
From our action cam, you can see why firefighters are so worried. This time lapse shows the wind around its peak, blowing dirt and dust over the city like a cloud. It was the windiest day of the year so far, and it is not over. Joe warned us it was coming, so the big question, what's next?
Well, you know what? Normally it dies down overnight.
Right.
Not the case tonight. Look at it, 10 o'clock at night. Sustained west winds, 30 miles an hour, gusting to 44 miles an hour. They're going to come down a little bit overnight, but look at this. 10 o'clock at night, 55-mile-per-hour wind gusts over in Las Vegas. This is some pretty serious stuff, and it's going to get even stronger during the day tomorrow. So these high wind warnings and wind advisories will stay up overnight. More, I expect, will be issued tomorrow. The winds are going to be sharply colder. Lots to update you on in my live Super Doppler 7 forecast coming up.
The wind is kicking up so much dust, the health department is warning people with asthma, bronchitis, or other respiratory problems to stay indoors and keep windows closed. The city put out a health alert until 9 a.m. tomorrow. And if you're driving near Lordsburg in Hidalgo County, transportation officials say be careful. There is zero visibility in some spots.
Tonight, James McGrain's family and deputies gathered to remember one of their own killed 10 years ago tonight. In 2006, Deputy McGrain stopped a car in Tijeras, and he was shot and killed by Michael Astorga. To honor his memory, dozens gathered near the spot he died to remember the sacrifice he made in the line of duty.
It's overwhelming for us. It's like losing a family member, and it has an impact.
McGrain's parents work with law enforcement to implement street survival training for officers in McGrain's name. They still do that training.
A graduation dress code targeting students in clubs and honor groups.
They should be allowed to be proud of their accomplishments.
Why some seniors are upset with what they can't wear.
A spaceship disappears from where else? Roswell. What police know about the mystery.
And the latest on the elections for the presidential primaries. See who's coming out on top tonight.
You're watching KOAT Action 7 News live at 10.
In the months leading up to graduation, one New Mexico high school has seniors divided.
Cleveland High School won't allow them to wear honor regalia, showing off their achievements. Action 7 News reporter Kristen Swanson asks students why this is such a hot topic and whether it could finally change.
In the halls of Cleveland High School, you can see signs of student achievement all over. But on graduation day, these stormed seniors.
I'm the president of National Honor Society.
I play varsity tennis.
Student body president.
I'm the senior class president.
Will look just like everyone else. The only commencement regalia students can wear is a single cord representing the National Honor Society. Nothing else. Some students, like Derek Sinna, like it that way.
Here at Cleveland, we strive for tradition.
Cords and stoles have never been allowed here at Cleveland High School. But here at Rio Rancho High School, students can wear whatever they want during graduation. Now there's a push to even the playing field, making cords acceptable at all high schools in the district. Brianna Bollinger is among those who thinks it's a great idea.
They should be allowed to wear them at graduation to be proud of their accomplishments.
Others don't want their classmates to feel left out.
Some students, they go home and they work, their families can afford it, or some kids just graduate with a 2.0, and that's their success.
But don't expect to see these Cleveland students decked out this May. The school board did not vote on the policy change, and it's unclear if it will come up again. But at the end of the day, these students say just graduating with or without the cords is worthy of celebration. In Rio Rancho, Kirsten Swanson, KOAT, Action 7 News.
New Atana judge decided James Boyd's criminal history will not be sealed ahead of his murder trial. It's a decision KOAT and the Albuquerque Journal fought for in court. The special prosecutor was worried if Boyd's criminal past was made public during proceedings, it could prejudice the jury. But lawyers for Dominic Perez and Keith Sandy and media outlets like ours pushed for transparency. APD says Perez and Sandy shot and killed Boyd after a standoff 2 years ago this month.
A high school basketball coach is on leave, and he claims it's because he prayed with his team. Espanola Valley's Richard Martinez just led the Sun Devils to a state championship. The superintendent won't say why Martinez was suddenly taken off the job, but Martinez told us over the phone he thinks the suspension has something to do with him leading a team prayer. Out of everyone we talked to there, most were on his side.
If somebody's uncomfortable with it, they don't have to do it.
This is a Catholic community for the most part here in northern New Mexico, and I don't think it should have been
had any disciplinary actions.
This win was the second state basketball title ever in the school's history.
Starting this fall, students and their families will be paying a lot more to attend the University of New Mexico. Today, the Board of Regents approved a 2.5% hike in tuition and a 10% increase for fees each semester. That's expected to cost each student an average of $286 per year. UNM says this is necessary because the university is getting less funding from the state.
A sewage spill that Target 7 was first to report is forcing the Albuquerque-Bernalillo County Water Authority to pay up. This is a look at when 6 million gallons of waste spilled into the Rio Grande in February 2015. The Water Authority says a power outage caused their main system and their backup system to fail, letting the sewage out. It contaminated parts of the river with E. coli. Now the EPA says the Water Authority pays $33,000 in fines for violating the Clean Water Act.
Results are still being counted right now in Idaho and Utah, but we know who won in Arizona tonight. The frontrunners, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Massive amounts of voters showed up for that election and the others. Take a look here at the long lines in Phoenix that stretch down the sidewalk outside this one polling location and down the street. The Boise caucuses experienced the same sort of massive turnout. We'll keep watching for the rest of the results and explain what they mean for this presidential race coming up at 10:30. And just a few minutes ago, Hillary Clinton began making a victory speech. This is her live look in Seattle, Washington, which has a caucus on Saturday. She's encouraging her supporters as they wait to see what happens in Idaho and Utah.
New at 10, we have learned a charter school that's been in trouble for a while will be closing June 30th. We told you in February, a state investigation found the Creative Preparatory Institute, or CEPI, was behind on its taxes and not meeting minimum education requirements, especially when it came to special ed. Then today, the Public Education Department decided to shut it down.
Also new at 10, what's being called the Southwest's only urban refuge is getting $1 million extra to help educate youth groups. The Valle de Oro National Wildlife Refuge sits about 5 miles from downtown Albuquerque. Senator Tom Udall and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Director say the additional federal funding will be used to educate the community on conservation efforts, including youth groups that use the area for hands-on learning.
Roswell police are searching for the person who stole from the UFO museum, but it's what they took that might make you laugh. Cops say someone stole this flying saucer Saturday. A while back, severe weather knocked it down from its usual mount, and it was being stored under an awning behind the museum. Police say surveillance video shows 3 suspects driving into the back alley, loading the spaceship into a red truck, and then driving off.
Now, live Super Doppler 7 weather